I'm part of what we're referring to as the Green 13, which includes our Senate candidate, who is running for the seat currently held by, I say Bob Menendez. Plus we have congressional candidates for the House in each of New Jersey's 12 congressional districts. I'm running against an incumbent candidate for Congressional District 4 here in New Jersey this year. His name is Chris Smith, and he's been in Congress for over 40 years. I believe I was just out of college when he was first elected to the House of Representatives. He's won easily every year. This time around, I think the people are going to see that there's time for a change, that 40 years in Congress is way too long. His policies are out of date, and we in the Green Party have better policies that take care of the people, both in the country and internationally. And that's what we're going to be rolling with. Single-payer health care, stop the genocide in Palestine is top of the list. Every human life matters as far as I'm concerned. And to coin a phrase, I am my brother's keeper, and it's time to stop killing people for no reason. Murder of innocent people doesn't hold water in any planet, and it needs to stop now.
There who are enabling.
I think it's time that the people in the 4th Congressional District to get a fresh, outlook on our district, ranked choice voting, and stop the genocide in Gaza. To go back when I was a child, growing up, back then, most young people had a chance to do as well as their parents. And I have 2 children who are now 30 years old. They'll be 31. They're twins. And the reason I do the things I do, running for office and activism, etc., is because I want them to have at least as good a life as I had. And the way I see things now in the world and in this country, things aren't looking that positive for that direction. And anything that I can do, and while I'm here, to make life better for those people is why I do what I'm doing and why I'm running in Congressional District 4 against Chris Smith, because my feeling is that his outlook is not conducive to the welfare of the young people who are coming up in this country.
So what inspired me to run for Congress was my father's passing in October. That was really what put me over the top. Dealing with him, I was his medical proxy, I was his power of attorney. These things are not things that should come up when you're fighting for your life or when someone's caretaking for you and advocating for you with Medicare, with supplements, with insurance companies. It's really difficult. It's a nightmare. And not wanting my children to have to deal with that with me, or their children to have to deal with that with them. Things need to change. So my vision for the community is obviously universal health care for all. When he was ill, it was a difficult time. Now, this all started in 2007. He got a strep infection, which was a very freak thing, made his intestine burst, which made him septic. He really wasn't supposed to survive that. He did. He came through. The one lingering effect that he had was he went into renal failure. So he was on dialysis for many years. Now, again, we're going back to 2007 when this started. Fast forward to about, I don't remember the exact years, but fast forward to 12, where he really lived on a good regimen and ate well and tried to keep his kidneys in good enough shape where he didn't need to start dialysis. Unfortunately, as he got older, it just, that moment came, so he had to do dialysis 3 times a week, which was difficult. It's difficult for anyone who needs to do that. And then we got lucky. Before he turned 70, a deceased donor came up. I had offered him the kidney many times. He wouldn't take it from me. There was nothing I could do. Believe me, I fought that battle. He just wouldn't allow it. So luckily, a deceased donor came up. I do recommend to everyone become a donor. You're really saving a lot of lives when you do. But he got COVID, and that was really the beginning of the end for him, where, he was in the hospital 35 days. He did get out and went from there to rehab, which he was in for another month or 2. And even though he came home and he was getting better, he never got back to that level of where he was after he received the kidney. We had a good 3 or 4 years after the transplant, and then getting COVID really signaled the final descent, and the last year was extremely difficult. At one point, he was in a rehab center after a hospital stay, he was not getting better. He was bedridden to the point where he couldn't even feed himself, really. And Medicare and his supplement both told me that they were cutting him off. And if he wanted to stay at the rehab center, he was going to have to go on full pay, full self-pay. When I asked him, I said, what are our options outside of full pay? How can you be cutting him off? How could you want him to go home? And their response was, well, the good news is we're going to send him a visiting nurse 3 days a week, and we'll continue his OT and PT 3 days a week. What are we going to do the other 4 days? And we danced around that question. We sparred that they were giving me nonsense answers. And their response was, and this is an insurance company that he pays money to for coverage, said to me, well, I would recommend that you call the local synagogues and churches because they have volunteer programs where they come out and help you on the days that we don't. When I heard that was what told me that you got to be kidding me. We have a health insurance company that gets paid. He never missed his payments. He never missed his premiums, telling me. Now, he's not a religious guy, but they want me to go to the churches and synagogues to find volunteers to come help me deal with him, help him feed himself, help him get clean, help him get changed. What kind of system is this? And it's crazy.
I decided to run with the Green Party in the 9th District of New Jersey against Bill Pascrell. When I saw just how few other candidates were on the ballot, I always thought, there might be a red line. There might be something in politics where this has gone too far and the people in power are going to put their foot down and start to say no. And when that didn't happen, when I found out, hey, I'm actually experiencing a genocide in the world in this day and age, that really got me motivated to try to make some changes. After studying politics at Rutgers for 4 years and doing all kinds of things in ecology and mycology, I decided to dip back into politics and see if I can't do something about it. We have one of the most corrupt police forces in Paterson. There was really a lot of corruption in that particular city. One of my major points for the 9th Congressional District, drug reform. And drug use should never be considered a crime. And the war on drugs, people will say it's a failure. I don't think it was a failure. I think it was a success for the Nixon administration in trying to silence and jail people of color. They're trying to, they're starting to legalize things like marijuana, but that's fallen into the pockets of maybe 7 big corporations. That's not really justice. Decriminalizing all drug use is a huge step forward and really needs to be done, and it should have been done years ago. Poor people of color in District 9 are really being mistreated. You can't go through life and just never have a health problem. That doesn't happen. Healthcare for all is absolutely a top priority. Decriminalizing drug use and looking into more of the science that's starting to come out. New Jersey is now looking into a legal psilocybin act. There's some benefits, but it's not complete, far from it. The mental health crisis needs to be addressed scientifically. There's a lot of value in stuff like psychedelic medicine that we ought to be looking into to help out the people here in District 9. Police violence needs to end. It's unacceptable. Throughout my adult life and going to school for politics, that was the worldview that I had, and seeing everything with the material conditions was absolutely essential for me getting into politics, especially throughout college and getting involved with the different organizations at Rutgers, BLM, SJP, New Labor. These people were great to work with. really my journey through political science at Rutgers was a whole lot less about the classes and a whole lot more about the different groups. And I think that was way more important than any book by Immanuel Kant and the sort of liberal and neoliberal talking points about getting on the ground and working with the houseless community, people seeking justice for Palestine, were really the things that helped me move through my journey. When Bernie was running in 2016, that was a big blow. I think a lot of young people who were looking at these policies that were promised in certain ways by even people like Obama, of course that came out to be kind of like just a healthcare mandate and a big sale for insurance companies. I sort of went underground in politics for a little while. I was more so active in groups, New Labor, like Rutgers, SJP, student unions, and even Bernie has been very slow, and it's unacceptable to have not called for an immediate ceasefire many months ago. Looking towards these elected officials and these representatives for any kind of support or guidance just isn't working anymore. There is the line. Let's stop this genocide. That's part of why I'm running. There needs to be somebody in there who's going to actually push for respecting international law and not doing genocide.
My name is Andrew Black. I decided to run in District 7 in New Jersey. I think we need to replace everybody in our government who care about you, and they've proven it over the years. Growing up, I heard about trickle-down economics, which that's just a load of crap. Grew up with a mom that could have stayed at home. She had a choice to go get a job. She didn't have to. My dad was a teacher. Didn't need 2 jobs like we do now. Now it's impossible. Most people need 4 jobs to get by. Housing is next to impossible. I have some policies that I want to put in place to help with the homelessness. We have enough houses in this country. We don't need to build more. You can house everybody in this country with what we have now. There's no excuse. It's just greed. But we were the only country that didn't think food was a human right in the UN. Richest country in the world, and people are starving. Instead of paying the farmers to throw out the food, pay the farmers to feed people. That's what it's meant for. We produce enough food for everybody, but we throw out tons of perfectly good food just for money. Again, it's greed. There's no reason for this. Like, no one should die in starvation in this country. I have a policy for that. So part of the reason why I decided to run for office, I've been thinking about it for like 6 months because of what is happening in the Middle East, in Palestine. I couldn't take it anymore. I saw what we were doing, what we are supporting over in the Middle East, and I believe it's a genocide in my opinion. Courts have said it's a genocide and America is just not listening. I've been to 2 encampments. I went to one in Rutgers in New Brunswick. I also visited one in Rutgers, Newark. Everything I've seen is peaceful. They're a community. They're sharing everything in these little communities. They all support each other. There's a library for you to learn. They should have classes just to teach you about what's going on around the world and the things that American media just doesn't tell you. They want to hide everything that's going on over there, and with cameras at your fingertip, it's hard to lie anymore. We see what is happening over there firsthand, that it's a complete lie. Like, from the people who are actually suffering from our government's actions. The average age in Palestine is 18. Like, they're children. I don't want my children to go through something like that. Like, it's unacceptable. I personally support a permanent ceasefire like now, and all hostilities, and a one-state solution, like with everybody involved democratically. It doesn't matter if you come from Israel, if you come from Palestine. Everybody needs to create the government there that suits everybody and not just a certain few. Now on to the environment. All you have to do is look out your window. Canada is just going to be on fire. It's already started up there. I personally believe that big oil needs to be held accountable for this. Like, they have known for 40 years that this was coming by their own scientists, and they buried it and kept it hidden. We have known since the 1800s what burning fossil fuels was going to do, and we still are doing the same thing. Our government thinks we have 30 years to fix this. We don't. We have 5. If we wait 30 years, we won't be able to survive. It's already in Saudi Arabia. They're hitting temperatures that no human can live outdoors. Arizona last summer hit 140 degrees, which is 10 degrees from being unlivable. We don't have any time left. The earth will go on without us. We just won't be here.
My name is Robin Brownfield. I'm a former sociology professor and union organizer, and I have a background in journalism and directing community programs. I got involved in doing this primarily because of my activity around calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. I've been active in all sorts of movements since I was 12 years old. This seems more urgent than many things that we've dealt with in the past, because it's our government that is financing the genocide that's going on, where over 35,000 people have been murdered using our tax money and weapons produced by our country. There's 2 things going on that I see. There are a lot of people who are up in arms or furious or upset about our involvement in committing a genocide. But there's also a lot of people, including our congressmen, who are facilitating the genocide. Donald Norcross has a stellar voting record for everything related to war. He votes to arm Israel, increase military spending at every turn. He just voted to condemn the phrase "from the river to the sea" as being anti-Semitic. And as somebody who was raised by Jewish parents, it's not anti-Semitic. Genocide committed by anyone is wrong. Many Jews, including my husband, myself, members of my family, are furious that genocide is being committed in our names. We don't condone that. This has come to a point. I had always asked myself what I would do if we had a situation like the Holocaust in World War II. What would I do if I knew there were concentration camps that were warehousing people and murdering them, starving them to death? I always felt that I would fight it in whatever way I could. And that's what I'm trying to do now. Donald Norcross is being funded by AIPAC, Lockheed Martin, by Raytheon, by Holtec. He has a vested interest in making sure that they get what they want. I have a vested interest in making sure that lives are saved. The monies that are being sent to murder people in other countries could better be used by helping people here. Providing services like a single-payer healthcare system, jobs with livable incomes that help stem climate change, that provide services that people need, whether it's social services, whether it's assistance in getting through life on a day-to-day basis, whether it's housing. Cost of housing has risen so tremendously. What I'm trying to do is avoid having most people end up living in tents, reallocating all the billions and billions and trillions of dollars being sent for military purposes so that we have housing for all. Schools that can service people in their communities. We have an issue right here in town. If the federal government made funding education a bigger priority, maybe the Board of Education would not be in this bind where they're robbing Peter to pay Paul to try to keep their schools open. We also need to ensure that our elections are fair, that we have true democracy. Right now, where you have the Democrats and Republicans pretty much telling us who we should be voting for, if we want to eliminate the spoiler effect that people are afraid of, we have to have ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting would eliminate the spoiler effect. In my district, we have the city of Camden, which is one of the poorest cities in the country. Camden has high unemployment, it has a high homelessness rate, it's got all the problems of economically and racially oppressed communities all over the country. I would like to see happen a real Green New Deal, creating jobs with livable incomes that also have some meaning to them. So cleaning up the environment, which we need very desperately here. Finding ways to save the ecosystem here. People working in social services, finding homes, getting homes, dealing with problems of addiction, domestic violence, the kinds of things that can destroy people's lives. I would like to see the rights of workers to organize protected better. We need somebody running for Congress who will be the voice of reason, who will be the voice of peace and diplomacy, who will not determine how he or she votes based on who's funding him.